Monsters have always been here, watching from the shadows. And when we were at our weakest, they came out into the light. We feared for our lives, but we should have feared for our souls instead. The vampires didn't come to kill us. No, they came to rule. To turn us into mindless, docile cattle. Not me, though. They tried to change me into one of them. But I became something else instead. Their worst nightmare. A Dawnwalker. Trapped between the two worlds. Fighting to even the score. Fighting to understand the evil behind it all.
He is out there, watching, seeping into you, growing.
Must be here somewhere.
It's all right.
Lunka! Don't hurt her! You gave us quite the chase, young man.
Please, sir. She's just a child!
Roderick, remind me, did I make an exception for children?
No, sire.
No. That would have been foolish, would it not? They spread the plague just as well as adults. And there's only one way to stamp out this sickness.
No!
Not just a runner, but a fighter, too. Had we met under a different moon, things might have ended
Lunka! My sister. She needs help. Fast. Please, let us pass through. I beg of you. Please. Please. I don't know. How?
I am life. I am death. I am everything in between.
I have been watching your little valley. Pestilence, famine, killing. Blood spilt carelessly, like water. Things will be different now. For all of you.
So the game takes place 2 years after the events shown in the intro, and this is just the beginning of a greater saga we were planning. So we get to meet the character at the beginning of his adventure, which I think is really cool. And Cohen in general is so much fun to write and flesh out because he's not your typical game protagonist. He's not a grizzled veteran who's seen it all, who is cynical about the world, who comments the world with like one-liners. He's a young guy who, at heart, is emotional, he can get vulnerable, he's honest about how he feels.
What I love in Cohen is that he'll be never a superhero. He'll be never overpowered. At the day, as a human, he can fight with a sword, he can use and discover dark magic, but he can be killed by anyone. At the night, he encountered a lot more difficult enemies. He can use some vampiric abilities, not only in combat, but also he can use it to explore the world and to see the world in a totally different way.
Yeah, and he'll need all these cool superpowers because he's facing formidable enemies. This clique of vampires who decided to take over the world, turn it upside down, and set the rules. And they are led by this super old and immensely powerful vampire called Brensis. Our game is set in 14th century Europe, and it's a world in deep crisis. First, the continent has been ravaged by the plague, then wars, and now famine. And all the while, vampires have been watching from the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And finally, when humanity is at its lowest, they come out of the shadows, they overthrow the feudal lords, and they move into their castles.
Vampires ruling the world is not necessarily the bad thing. Feudal lords in that time killed the whole villages to prevent, the plague. And the vampires, they defend Cohen and his sister. They even healed Lunka. And, I know that people need to pay taxes in blood, but it's not a huge cost of safe and good life.
Well, to that I'd say that vampires' favors are uncertain. And sure, they protect the people of the valley where the game takes place, but they see them as cattle, so they protect them to then lead them and ultimately kill them. And the blood tax you mentioned, it's taken from everyone, the frail, the weak, the old. Each week they have to convene at the church for a blood mass. So for some people, that's deeply traumatizing or might even end up in them dying. So in the end, I'd say the balance is more or less equal. And that's something that I actually really like about our setting, this world, that nothing is simple. Nothing is just black or just white. And you have to decide for yourself, like, what do I think is the right choice? What is the path I want to take? And what is the path I want to avoid? And ultimately, Cohen's family ends up in the dungeons of the Vampire Lord. And even as Cohen is trying to free them, he will meet people who still support the regime.
It's even more challenging for players because Cohen has only 30 days and 30 nights to save his family. In most games, sandbox means gameplay freedom. In our, it means narrative freedom. We don't think about the quest like the main quest or the side quest. We just have quests. Players will craft their experience through the game by themselves, and nobody will have the same. And we call it narrative sandbox.
Yeah, that's something that really excites me because that means that no two playthroughs will be identical. That each player will have a unique experience. And that's the true magic of video games, and that's why I love making them.
Man, look at this place. That would be perfect for the writing team.
Not just for them. I love storytelling myself. Since I can remember, telling stories through images is what I love to do.
Yeah.
So when I received the first script for the Dawnwalker, I fell in love with it right away.
I think for me, what got me was the concept art when I first saw those Carpathian villages hugging the mountain slopes, the valleys, forests, and then also the muddy streets of Svartrau and the long shadow of the cathedral. It all felt very authentic, muddy, and also very familiar, homely, and, well, Eastern European.
Not just Eastern Europe.
No, yeah.
It's a mix of predominantly Romanian motifs with broader influences of Balkan cultures. It gave us a freedom of creation. It's a vast range of inspiration from Polish log houses to Ukrainian or Balkan clothing to Romanian defensive churches.
That variety and that broad spectrum was also interesting to get because I never thought as an environment artist I would have to learn in Romanian how to Google specific museums just to get the references.
On the other hand, we also set a boundary for ourselves, and that boundary is a time period of inspiration ranging from the 13th to 15th century. And this is meant to ensure the visual consistency of the world.
Yeah, and that is also quite a challenge to make sure that what you create is authentic, grounded, and has a real sense of place. But at the same time, isn't just a picture and invites exploration and promotes that gameplay.
I wanted to see how far we could push realism so that players truly feel part of the narrative. But this is not a simulation of medieval life.
Not at all.
Realism can be boring, and we wanted to create something exciting. And that's where the magic comes in.
Yes, the magic.
Our magic isn't filled with fireballs or flashy lights.
Yeah, it's probably even more interesting to get right than the realism part of it, because when a quest brief comes through and the magic is manifested by, I don't know, birds flying in the sky in a strange formation or the northern lights not being in the north, it really makes you rethink the whole location and how it should come together to marry those two aspects.
Our magic is also serious, and it's closer to paranormal phenomena than to traditional spellcasting. It's like the X-Files set in the Middle Ages, all deeply rooted in the history of the Dawnwalker world.
Yeah, and I think it's the weather and the lighting system that do majority of the heavy lifting to take a location and really push it one notch above realism to give it a slightly off feeling. I think my favorite location for that is the cathedral. During the daytime, it's that monument to Gothic architecture with people bustling around. And then as soon as the sun starts setting in and the streets clear, the fog starts setting in, and it becomes a completely transformed, different area, very spooky, almost liminal, cemetery-like space.
And that was also a very early and conscious choice on our part. We wanted the world to be a different place after the sun sets.
Right, so hold on. Environment art is something I understand, right? I do it every day, I understand the creative process behind it, but I've never touched anything to do with character art, which is your speciality. So would you mind walking me through what was your creative process in coming up with that whole thing?
Sure. So we approach the work on vampires very seriously. It's a whole new universe. What's even better is that it's a mix of familiar elements with a fresh twist. We all know that vampires are well-defined in pop culture and have been around for a long time, so we wanted to create something fresh. So what primarily sets them apart is their teeth. Our vampire teeth keep growing throughout their lives. The older the vampire, the more teeth they have. So instead of two sharp teeth, they have a series of needle-like fangs, densely growing from their jaws, often emerging from different parts of their skull as they age. The teeth keep growing because the vampire can use them to create another vampire. And the mechanism is very simple. The vampire pulls out his fang and drives it into the heart of its victim.
Lovely.
So what's interesting is that our vampire's teeth aren't visible at first. They can extend as the mouth opens, and it looks really creepy.
Yeah, I still remember the first time that the animations came through from the character art team, showing the mouth opening and the teeth growing, and it was absolutely disgusting. I loved every bit of it.
So Cohen's Argyria, the silver poisoning he got when he was working in the mines, is both a blessing and a curse. Because on one hand, it weakens him. On the other hand, it protects him from becoming a vampire fully. So, he gets to traverse both worlds, both the world of humanity and the world of the creatures of the night.
Yeah, well, he was kind of used to dealing with the vampires since it's been like a couple of years since Francis took over. Now he has to find a way to deal with things like undead lurking in ancient tombs that should have remained closed. Kobolds that used to only prey on miners going way too deep into the mines, or even Uriashes, who used to live high up in the mountains, secluded, and now they are in Francis's troops.
Yeah, and they are vastly different.
Oh yeah, they all have their own separate cultures, and well, if you want to deal with them, I would kind of like to you should get to know them a bit, or else you might get tricked, because they all have their own goals, aspirations, now that they came out of the shadows in Francis's wake.
It's a source of a lot of tension, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of tension. Some of them can cooperate with humans, but mostly it's just new issues, new problems nobody had to deal with before.
But I think this is great because all of that tension, all of these problems are great storytelling material for us, for building all of that content. For example, Francis, he had to normalize this thing for the humanity, convince everyone this is the new normal.
Yeah.
And the way he did this was, first of all, there was a lot of social turmoil, and on the other hand, a lot of deeply held religious beliefs. And he twisted them. He turned himself into this messianic figure. So, for example, he introduced these blood masses where he feeds a human vampire blood, right? And at the same time, they have these other things like punishing criminals with draining them dry.
Yeah, but, well, some people actually liked it because once Francis came in, he set up a new order of things. He finally got down to business, and then he locked the valley off so that nobody can touch it. No outside influence can touch it. And, well, some others did not like it so much, and they began to reach into the depths of forgotten magic, occult, stuff like that.
Yeah, so either way you look at it, the Vale Sangora will never be the same again.
Not a chance. That is a lot of world building, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. There are so many things we need to remember to make this into a cohesive whole. And at the same time, you have the challenges posed by the open world itself. Because, there's a risk of the content being formulaic or repetitive. We handcraft all of it, and we focus on telling these unique themes we really care about.
Oh yeah, we want to talk about loss, about the meaning of family, about opposing tyranny, about trying to coexist with creatures you've never had to coexist with before.
Well, but that would be difficult to do with just Cohen and Francis, right?
Impossible, actually. We had to create a whole host of characters, and we really wanted to avoid having cardboard cutouts, like without motivations, without backgrounds, goals and ambitions. But, when you meet those characters, your goals and ambitions may overlap, and you befriend them, or it might be the opposite, and you go on a warpath with them. But, given the goal that you have ahead of you, it might be good to have some friends to go along with.
Well, but you could go on your own, right, if you wanted? Well,
yeah, you could just grab a sword and go storm the castle.
Yeah.
But, it might be wise to, for instance, find the rebel cell and try to dismantle Francis's rule with them. Or, I don't know, listen to what an agent from outside of Vale Sangora has to say.
Which is exactly why I love how we structured the game, because we offer a lot of choice in which characters do you want to interact with, which you might want to skip altogether. And also on top of that, you have this layer of non-linearities where you can decide their fates, but also the fate of Cohen and his family.
Yeah, and I really like that because it gives us so much replayability. You can always choose a different path. There's something else waiting there for you.
Yeah, exactly. And also, on top of that, you get to find all these secrets of Vale Sangora and fill all the blanks and, explore the world.
And yet another path might be lurking within that.
Handcrafted content is all good and well. But on top of that, we also have a number of really cool gameplay systems that further feed into the narrative.
Yeah, and speaking of feeding, my favorite one is the blood hunger. It lets me play a real vampire. I don't just have to drink blood to use my cool abilities in combat, but if I talk to someone without feeding first, I might just lose control and I might eat them. And it's not going to be just any random peasant that I won't care about. I can eat my best friend. And I will break my heart, and I will break my quest.
Yeah, so you better keep him well fed.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have a fave?
Yeah, I really enjoy the ones that are revolving around Brensis, because it makes him this active antagonist. You know, this means that he will basically react to what Cohen is doing. He will pass these edicts that will hinder your path. So, for example, he might set up military checkpoints that will be on your way.
That changes the world, right?
Yeah, exactly. And also, you know, it's not just him running the show. It's also his 3 powerful vampire allies.
Yeah, when I saw them in CGI, that was such a hype moment. Finally animated, voiced, and just loved it.
Yeah, and on top of being cool characters, they also have their own spheres of influence, and you get to dismantle their organization step by step, making it simpler for you to confront Brensis and free your family.
Well, when it comes to freeing your family, there's one more antagonist, that is time itself, because every time you do something important in the game, when you complete an objective or you complete a quest, time moves forward.
Yeah, but what I really like about this also is it's not like real time. You actually get to control how much of this resource you want to spend, right?
Yeah, you have to manage it wisely, but if you just want to enjoy the view or just take a stroll, you can without stress. But once you get down to business, you have to do it smart.
Yeah, so I think all of these things combined, handmade quests and the gameplay systems, create for this really fun, unique experience.
Yeah, and you know what? I cannot wait to see what shenanigans players will get up to playing with those systems. I will be there watching it.
Same.